The next biggest payoff as far as technique is concerned, creating power and racket head speed through the point of contact on your serve, is what's typically referred to as the tilt part of your service motion. And this is actually the measurements here. There's a lot of similarities between the rotational aspect, which we talked about in the first video, and now this one, the tilt. And this is incredibly important, and again, incredibly common that amateur players are not even close to professional players. And listen, professional players aren't born professional tennis players. They learn these techniques. So a lot of times when I point things out like this to amateur players, they'll say, oh, well, they might do it that way, but that's because they're a professional player. Well, no, they're a professional player because they do it that way. So this is one of those elements that might not seem natural or intuitive right away, but if you copy it, will make a big difference if you're pretty far off the mark. So what I mean by tilt is the angle that you will see in the trophy pose. Again, we're going to be talking about the trophy pose here, which is just simply the loaded position of the body that players get to before accelerating up towards the ball to make contact. And the tilt element here, what I like to look at is the tip of the dominant elbow, the right elbow, and also the line that it creates up through the tossing arm, the non-dominant arm. And that angle is what I typically like to refer to as the tilt of the shoulders. And it's really the whole upper body that's tilting and rocking back, and the hips kind of push out a little bit to allow this angle to occur up towards the point of contact. Now, again, referring to like the biggest servers of all time, when you look at Sampras, when you look at a John Isner or Ivanisevic, etc., you'll see very close to perpendicular, 90 degrees to the court surface, with their dominant elbow pointing down towards the court and their non-dominant arm vertical or close to it up towards the ball. Now, what this does is it loads their body vertically aligned up towards the point of contact. What a lot of players don't understand or realize is to what extent the serve is a vertical motion. You should be accelerating aggressively upwards towards the ball, and this allows you to do that. What most amateur players do, in addition to not rotating back very well, is they stay very horizontal with their shoulder plane, and they end up having a very horizontal delivery. And not only is that just not a very good angle to try to hit a serve at, because the ball needs to go up over the net and then down into the box again, it ends up being a very flat and kind of very low trajectory typically, but it just doesn't use the body very powerfully either. So where most amateur players are is here, horizontal, and they're accelerating forwards. Where virtually all professional players are is here, very vertically, and the biggest servers are completely vertical and then accelerating upwards. And they rotate their shoulders and upper body around in what I like to call a cartwheel motion, where their dominant arm starts on the bottom, non-dominant arm on the top, and then as they accelerate up towards the ball, they cartwheel their arms end over end, and then their dominant arm ends up on top and their non-dominant arm on the bottom. So there's this big rotational acceleration up towards the ball, as opposed to just kind of throwing the racket straight forwards. So as with the rotational element, the video before this, we're looking to split the difference and go halfway between. If most amateur players are here and most professional players are here, if we can get to 45 degrees, I'm generally very happy with that with most of my students at your average level. So just like in the first video, I highly recommend using video here, a smartphone or a tablet. Record yourself. From a side angle is great, but from a back angle can be excellent as well. And just check out where you are. Get a baseline, marking of video, and then see how much you can improve. If you're totally flat, which a lot of players are, practice without a ball, going to your trophy pose, and going to a 45-degree angle, or ballpark, right around 45 degrees, and put in a lot of repetitions, just getting a feel for what that position is like without a ball, and just go to that position, and then after probably 50, 75, 100 repetitions of getting to the right spot, then you can introduce a ball and actually use your toss. And you can also practice going from that position up to contact as well, just to get a feel for what that's like to go from this position to your contact points. And then eventually you want to incorporate that into your actual motion. And just like the rotational element, which we talked about in the first video, this can give you big results very quickly. It's not quite as easy as the rotating back for most players, but relatively simple compared to like making a grip change or working on your racket drop or those kind of elements. It's relatively big and easy to feel whether or not you're doing it correctly. So again, I stress using the video. Check out what you're doing, compare it, work on getting closer to what the professional standard is.